Hi, and welcome to our weekly market update for the week of August 10th. I'm Dennis Morton here with Katie Brown. How are you, Katie?
I am wonderful. How are you, Dennis?
Doing well, doing well. So we are here in what we might consider a lull. These are the dog days of summer. We're in the last couple of weeks before a lot of things start to happen. We're coming up on Labor Day. We're coming up on first day of school. We even have election season coming up with that first Tuesday in November. So we wanted to talk a little bit today about how we're feeling. We've been checking in with our clients about how they're feeling and how this is different from a sudden event like we had in March to things that we now have the opportunity to plan for. So why don't we start there? Katie, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well. You're right. We are at this interesting time. I mean, this is normally the end of summer where you start to gear up for school. You start to gear up. We often talk about how there's almost two New Years in the year. There's January 1st, and then there's hitting the road, running in September as everybody goes back to school and businesses start to say, okay, let's make the most of this last quarter. And feeling good right now, but getting ready for the race.
So we were in react mode. 1 week in March, everything was going, then everything stopped and it was react. And for me, I learned a few things. It showed me some things. I had to respond. What did you learn from that period?
I think in that period, I really learned the importance of setting the right expectations for yourself and embracing a certain level of discipline, at least for me personally. I think it took a little while. We started in March, and I started with a mindset of, okay, we just have a couple of weeks to get through this. And it was probably somewhere around May where I said, I need to make better use of my time. I need to make sure I'm building in time for myself and I'm staying focused on, healthy living and, mental wellness. I think that's just kind of a challenge for everybody. So I think as we, look forward and say, okay, could a second wave come about? Could we kind of take a step back? Those are some of the areas that I would definitely focus on a little bit more strongly at the onset, or even just preparing in advance for.
I mean, we're both planners by nature. I mean, it's in our job description. And now we're looking out it's interesting to think about November 3rd. So use the election as an example. That is a fixed date that's been on the calendar forever, that we know something's going to happen that day. That's different from something coming out of left field and catching you off guard. So there's kind of this anticipation, like what do you do in advance of an event or in advance of school starting or, something related to your business.
Mm-hmm.
The lesson that I took away from the last 6 months is go easy on yourself. You can't prepare for everything. I mean, by the time March and April were coming around, things were so all over the map and decisions from one day to the next were so wild that I had to pause and say, listen, you're not going to get everything right here. You have to be able to prioritize and give yourself a pass that you're going to make certain mistakes. Just be sure they're not the big mistakes. But now as I think about how we lean into the last part of the year, how we think about investing or the political landscape, everything else, don't expect that you're going to get it all right, because that's not the way it works. And you don't need to just put a certain level of planning and preparation into there. So what are some things that you plan to do in the last quarter of the year to make sure that you're kind of engaged and, at your best here, either professionally or personally?
Yeah. Well, and actually, before I jump into that, I just want to circle back to something that you said as far as kind of giving yourself that room and that forgiveness to say that it's not going to be perfect. That is something, kind of I am very proud of our team for, and I've seen it in so many other teams as well, that willingness to kind of step out of our comfort zone and say, okay, we haven't done a lot of these, video engagements and the virtual meetings. We had started to incorporate some virtual meetings into our practice, but we really went out and said, okay, let's give it a try. And once again, I've seen it with a lot of other people as well. And I think that has built a lot of confidence within our team and our firm, and I imagine other businesses too, to say, okay, we can pull this off. We can be engaged. We can find new ways to communicate. And I think that it's helped to create a foundation so that as we look down the road, we can better prepare. So we can reflect to say, how do we do it better? So I think some of the things going forward, in my mind, to prepare for is to once again reflect on what are we doing? How do we make it better? How do we better utilize our tools? How do we better, create our work environment, whether that's in the office or preparing to be at home? In March, we didn't have that luxury. It was kind of unplug the computer, go home and plug it back in. But now we have an opportunity to be more thoughtful, to set up our work environments, to help us feel more comfortable throughout the day. And from a personal standpoint, my desk at home is not the same as my desk in the office. And so I was starting to really hold a lot of weight and a lot of stress on my shoulders just from not sitting as well as I do in the office. And so just thinking through some of those items, what is going to help make each of our environments more comfortable, and what are the small things that we can put in place now if we do need to return to that type of work environment.
Yeah. And for me, in the last part of the year here, as I think about it, I'm going to really try and withhold judgment a little bit more often. I think that there's a lot of times, especially in the business that we are in, there's that constant temptation to judge things being good or bad, up or down. Is the stock market good? Is the stock market bad? And the reality is that that's taxing. If we're trying to judge every event on its merits all day long, I think we're all feeling the weight of that a little bit. And it's not required of us. The better way that I've found is, are we doing the job? Are we succeeding at our purpose? And if the goal is not to capture every bit of the upside of the market or just kind of make all the right moves, it's to successfully navigate and get through, and really being clear about what the purpose is, whether you're doing a financial plan for a family or building an investment portfolio, running a business, whatever it might be, or just working with your family. Not everything needs judgment all the time. And there's a little bit of relief in that sometimes, because with things happening the way they have over the last 6 months, it takes its toll. So being a little bit less judgmental about all the things being up or down, good or bad, I think will be helpful.
Yeah. And also recognizing what's working and what's not working. And it's okay to abandon a direction, to say, okay, that didn't pan out the way that I wanted it to. And I think that goes back to the judgment thing, because we're all figuring it out, and we're learning from one another too. I mean, we might start heading down the road in one direction, and we see another business or firm that's executing very well with a slightly different direction. We say, okay, how can we collaborate? I think that has been something that's been really cool too, is we have had a number of conversations with other businesses locally about, how are you doing this? How are you communicating what's working, what's not working? And that's been really fulfilling and fun.
Sure. Good. So let's end on an optimistic note, which I always like to do, and maintain the optimism. What are you most looking forward to as we head out of summer and into the fall? What's high on your radar?
I love fall. I do. I love the crisper weather. I love sweaters. I mean, coming off of a July where we had over 20 days of 90-degree weather, I am looking forward to that kind of crisp smell and feeling outside. I don't think I'll ever stop loving that. So, and maybe growing my hair back. So if anybody noticed, I'm about 10 inches shorter than I was this time last week. My daughter and I, just last Friday, we cut off and we donated our hair to Maggie's Wigs for Kids, and so happy that we did it. But I think we're both kind of wishing we had a little bit more.
Sorry. So in other words, in the fall, Katie's looking forward to hair growing. That's that sounds exciting. So no, I think it's. I agree. Living in this part of the country, we're fortunate to have 4 great seasons, and that's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to some trail running. Like this is the peak season for just really getting out there and experiencing just running through creeks, running up hills. That's really been something that has been a break for me. I call it my hill therapy, just hitting hills on weekends and just running up through the mountains. Really looking forward to a change in weather, so it's not 90 degrees when we do that. But I think it's really going to be awesome. So there's still things to look forward to. If you have any questions or want to share some things that are either ways that you've coped and managed through the last 6 months, or things that you're looking forward to in the fall, we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, we do have a live webinar coming up on August 27th. We'd love for you to join us. We're going to be discussing investing, the election, and all the things that go into purposeful investing. So thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll catch up with you next week.